Welcome in. This is episode 3 of the 1796 Sports Podcast. I've got Ryan with me, and I've got Normal Vol fan as always. We're going to be getting into the preview of the Alabama game coming up. Everybody knows what this week entails. This is nothing new for our audience. Where do you guys want to get started?
Yeah, I think, I just want to talk about Arkansas versus Alabama. I mean, Arkansas is not – they're not a good team, and they were in that game in the fourth quarter with a chance to win it. And I think it came down to coaching for Arkansas, or Alabama very well could have lost that game to a poor team. I mean, Arkansas got off to a good start. They had 2 coverage busts that would have changed the game. It would have been a dogfight the whole time. They wouldn't even had to be coming back. Mm-hmm. And, but Arkansas did eventually end up coming back even with those coverage busts, and it was due to KJ Jefferson's excellence. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. It's a shame he's on a terrible team. But what are y'all's thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give – well, I think one, it says the most thing that it says that Alabama is not the same Alabama. I mean, I don't think Arkansas is horrible. I tend to agree with Josh Pate from CBS Sports said that Arkansas would win the Big Ten West, and I totally agree with that. Look at Arkansas' schedule. It's a murderer's row, but that's besides the point. No matter how good Arkansas is, Alabama teams that we grew up watching would not have let them hang around like that. Like in prior years, Alabama is just so clearly a level above Arkansas. And this year, they're obviously not. At least they didn't play like they were. And it's not – you can't even say – fluky stuff happens. Tennessee played like shit against Austin Peay. But the thing is it's not really fluky with Alabama at this point. Look how bad they looked against USF. And then USF got their doors blown off by UAB and Florida Atlantic. So, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know if it's just, Saban not being able to keep up in the transfer portal, but I wasn't all that surprised that Arkansas kept it close. And the thing is Arkansas usually is a good running team. They're not a good running team this year, and they were able to keep it close with Bama. So I think it could have been. I'm sure this game is in Bama's players' heads a little bit. I'm sure that obviously they know they lost last year. I'm sure they probably overlooked Arkansas a little bit, but that's what I would take from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we have a Alabama team, from the second half show up to this Tennessee game, which I don't think is going to happen. Obviously, we have, last year's game on their minds. Well, some of them, but there's going to be issues if that comes about during our game, especially in the running game. I just don't think, especially after what we did with Texas A&M, I definitely am very confident in our running game doing something. It's just now we got to see what we get from Joe Milton. Okay. If Joe Milton plays like a 250-yard type game, I just don't see us losing. So it's just, what's going to happen? Are we going to get that Alabama team from the first half or the second half?
Even if we do get the first half Alabama, I don't think it'll be that big of an issue if they play like that again. It's like I said earlier, without the coverage bust, Arkansas is only going into half down a touchdown, maybe a field goal. Give credit to Alabama. They stopped them at the Razorbacks at midfield when they were driving in the fourth quarter with a chance to go ahead, and then they ran the clock out. But they had help from Sam Pittman and whoever's calling his defense. I'm sorry, I don't know who their defensive coordinator is. But on 3rd and 3 at midfield after Alabama got the stop there on the Razorbacks, they dropped 8 in coverage. And to no one's surprise, Milroe ran for a first down. How easy is that to run on 3 people? on the defensive line. So I think, Arkansas could have won that game, and Alabama, no matter how they play next week, if they repeat their performance they had against Arkansas, Tennessee has a great chance to win.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like I said, it's just, especially with them being home too, that game, it's kind of a eye-opening thing. And a lot of people just start to look at last season. They look at, and you got to remember last season they had Bryce Young. The kid in college was unbelievable. One of the best college quarterbacks we'll probably see in our lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. And, Jalen Milroe is Jalen Milroe. I mean, he has his, pros and cons, just like Joe Milton. But, my biggest thing with this game coming up is what are we going to do with Joe Milton? Because we saw it in the Florida game. I mean, Joe can throw. It's just you gotta do the plays for the medium to long passes. Me and Ryan were talking about it before. We saw what 3, maybe 2 deep passes in the Texas A&M game. It's just like, where has that been? Last year, it was, a couple bombs a game, like 5, 6, 7 times going downfield. And we haven't seen that this year.
Yeah, the most glaring thing is that none of those passes on Saturday were to Squirrel White down the field.
I didn't. Yeah, I was very surprised about that. Like, Squirrel wasn't involved at all. I mean, we talked about it a little bit already, but like Chaz Nimrod led the team in targets. I don't know. There was something weird going on there.
There's been something weird going on all year, and I don't know what it is, and I don't think anybody knows what it is because, I mean, I get it. Our run game, 3-headed monster, man. You put any 3 of those backs in, and they're, running for 50-plus yards easily. And it's just, I don't know, something's off, and it's going to have to be fixed. I trust this team. I still believe I have more faith this year than I did last year. Okay, so we'll see. I don't know. I think the environment's going to be, electric. Obviously, they all want revenge. This is, we'll call it their Super Bowl this year. And because, honestly, I still don't think Alabama is going to be, I still think Bama could lose 3 games this year. And we'll see. So this is one of the biggest games on their schedule, along with us. But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I that's kind of something, and I don't know if this is a good segue. I just wanted to mention off of what you just said. So their Super Bowl. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, they already have 1 loss, and then LSU is not out of it. I mean, if LSU, well, we'll get into that later, but there's a path for LSU. Basically, my point is, the thing that makes me the most nervous, and Ryan, I know you're going to get mad about this. The thing that makes me the most nervous about this game, I love reading into stuff like this. Nick Saban, I think we all agree, Nick Saban is one of the greatest college coaches of all time. I do not see Nick Saban not having his team ready to play for this game. I think they have so much bulletin board material this week. I think this will be the most motivated. It might be the best Alabama performance of the season. I'm just going to go out and say it. I think he's going to have his team ready, and they're going to exploit our lack of a passing game. That's my fear for the game. I just think when you're playing one of the best coaches of all time, it's hard to beat him once. It's even harder to beat him twice in a row.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that.
I'm not mad about that, Bryce. I mean,
well, you usually don't like the whole like momentum and like bad history argument, but like,
I mean, I don't think that has to do with that. I mean, Nick Saban is the best college football coach in history. I mean, I don't think that's debatable at this point. And he remembers when he loses because he doesn't do it that often.
Yep.
I mean, like, I'm not mad about that at all. I mean, and I think that leads nicely into what I have here. I mean, Nick Saban has lost 9 games at home at Alabama.
Yeah. And it's 15 years, right?
Let's see. They think this will be the 17th year, and 6 of those were 3 of those losses were in his first season when he was, rebuilding everything. So that's insane. Nick Saban, there's no doubt he's going to have that team ready. So I agree that Alabama's going to give it their best effort, probably the best effort they've seen that anybody has seen from them all season. So
yeah, I just think that's something that you got to factor into any kind of projection because I think honestly, from a matchup standpoint, this is probably the best we've matched up against Alabama in a long time. But
Oh yeah.
but you have that extra motivation factor, that the coaching factor, which I think Heupel's a great coach, but I mean Nick Saban's the best. So that's just something else you got to factor in.
I mean, Tennessee obviously wants to win this game as well.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, this is a huge rivalry. It always has been. You're talking about the two best teams in SEC history when you take it back to the 1890s. So, I mean, like Tennessee's going to be motivated as well, but will that overcome the motivation that Alabama will have after their defeat last year in Neyland Stadium?
See, this game has a lot, and I talked about it on Twitter. If Tennessee wins this game, just think of the narrative shift that's going to happen. Okay, if Tennessee comes out of Tuscaloosa with the win, oh boy, watch out! The media is going to eat this up, and it's going to be Tennessee, Georgia. We're thinking way ahead, and we can't do that, especially with going Kentucky at night. It's going to be cold, and we'll talk about that in that podcast. But you win this game, it's going to be, the narrative is going to change, and Tennessee is hyped up. I do not doubt that Heupel is going to have these boys ready, and I don't think we're going to see the Tennessee that was the Tennessee of Florida. I think we're going to get the Tennessee that everyone knows and the defense that everyone has seen. And I think we had that one fluke game, and I'm glad it was early.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think for sure I agree on all those points there. I think, would you all want to get into what do you think what's your key for the game? I already have something prepared. If y'all don't mind, I'll go ahead and get something.
Go ahead,
yeah. I was just going to say, I think, in my opinion, Jalen Milroe is their best running back. I mean, don't get me wrong. So McClellan is pretty good. Like, I'm not going to say he sucks, like I said last week about Texas A&M, but he's not the type of running back that Alabama is accustomed to having. He's no Derrick Henry. He's not Mark Ingram. He's not Eddie Lacy. He's not like a game changer, in my opinion. I don't think we will have any problems with Alabama on the ground. And I personally think Kamal Haddon's, probably the best corner in the SEC. Let's just go ahead and say it. So I'm not really worried. Like, the Cover 3 podcast guys on CBS always talk about how Jalen Milroe and Joe Milton are the same quarterback. Jalen Milroe can just run. And I kind of agree with that. Like, I'm not really worried about Milroe beating us through the air. I really think this is set up to be a low-scoring game. And I wanted to get you guys' opinion about if you think – and I know, like, NVF, you said last week, you were the one that called our running game was going to be fantastic against Texas A&M. Nobody thought that. Like, I thought you were kind of crazy. I'm not going to lie. But then guess what happened? We ran it right down their throats all night. So my question to you fellas is, Alabama's run defense is just as good, if not better, in my opinion. What do you think? Do you think we're going to have no problems running again? Do you think this is another 200-plus rushing yard game?
Okay, so what I think about it is I believe in our running backs. I think and our offensive line has been fantastic. Now this game's a little bit different. It is on the road, and obviously it's going to make me. I say it makes me a little nervous, because you look at the Florida game, but I just don't see these guys. I think these guys are a lot motivated. Like, they're a lot more motivated than they are when they went to Florida. And we also have the mental hurdle when it comes to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think we're going to at least get 200 yards or at least close to it. I don't think they're going to stop us like Florida did. I think it's going to be another Jalen Wright show. Obviously, I wish Dylan Sampson would get a little bit more love and a little bit more touches. But I mean, Jalen Wright is doing things right, if you know what I mean. And I just, man, yeah, I think we're going to be able to run the ball. To me, the key to this game is Joe Milton. And I think if Tennessee scores 30 plus points, we win this game. So it's
For
just
sure, for sure. I had one more little thing I wanted to get in before I let Ryan go. I just wanted to say the thing that makes me nervous about it is Joe Milton. I feel like Nick Saban is going to be dialing stuff up all night to try to get under his skin, try to get him rattled, just like, in the Florida game. And that makes me a little nervous, especially with Kool-Aid McKinstry is one of the best cover guys in the nation, and our receivers kind of suck. So I'm not really sure, that makes me a little bit nervous. So I think you're totally right. I think it's going to have to be a Jalen Wright game.
Yeah. Talking about the run game, I agree with normal Vol fan. Like, I think we'll be able to run it, but I also think it's going to look a lot different than it looked against Texas A&M. I think in order to have success on the ground, you need to get Joe Milton involved in the running game.
But will he?
Well, I don't think he's going to have a choice. Like, he showed that he can run over somebody. He knocked out A&M's, best linebacker. He ran over a guy before he, lost his mind and threw an interception in the end zone. Like, if you take out the sacks, Joe Milton ran for 8. He ran 8 times for 50 yards against A&M. And I think it's going to have to look like that again. And I also think the running game, we need to bring out all the stops. You need to be running reverses, jet sweeps, misdirection, counters, draws.
I want to see some D. Williams jet sweeps.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're going to have to dial up exotic runs, in my opinion. And if we do, we might go for more than we had against A&M. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know if you guys seen what Nick Saban said about Joe Milton, but, him saying, and this is a quote, saying, I don't see Joe being a whole lot different than what we played against in the past. When Hendon Hooker was there, the guy can throw the ball. He's accurate. He's got a strong arm, and he can make plays downfield. And they take a lot of vertical shots, which I don't believe that's accurate. But so he's certainly capable of making those plays, but he's also athletic enough to extend plays in the pocket and run if necessary. And we were just talking about it. And it happened, Ryan and Bryce, I know you were watching the game on TV, okay? Joe Milton had a certain play where he should have ran the ball. Even if you get 3 yards, 4 yards, go slide and get 4 yards. Do not force a ball. We were lucky he was out of bounds. But he threw an interception, but the guy was out of bounds. It's just, I don't know if I'm not, like you said, Brian, I mean, I don't think he's definitely not scared of a hit. It's like, then why not go run?
I mean, there's no reason he should be scared. He's the size of damn Derrick Henry.
Yeah, he's huge, and he runs over everybody.
No,
I'm not saying, I'm not saying, run the ball all the time, but.
I mean, but the thing is he's so averse to it. And my thing is I don't want to say that. I don't want to speculate it because, I mean, nobody knows this, but I wonder if it's like a football IQ thing, like if he's just like missing something, because we'll go back to, I think it was the Ole Miss game. Ryan, you help me out here.
Yeah.
That final play where the game is almost over and he just runs out of bounds, like with no time on.
He ran out of bounds with 000 on the clock.
Yeah, it's like, to me, that's not like a skill thing. Like, that's like not knowing the situation or like not. And I wonder if that has something to do with it. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he got some bad injury in high school or something running. I don't know. It's just weird to me because even when the lane is there, even when it's very obvious that you should take off, he's like, he seems scared, and he shouldn't be scared. He's built like a freaking linebacker.
Yeah. I mean, if I think if Tennessee's going to win this weekend, Joe Milton is going to have to drop his damn nuts and man up. Like, it's not a joke anymore. Like, he's going to have to run, and he's going to have to run people over. Like, that's the bottom line.
Yep.
Yeah, and a big thing going into Tuscaloosa. I've never been there personally. Have you guys?
No, I've never been to Tuscaloosa. I've been all throughout Alabama though, so I'm assuming it's probably the same.
I've been to Tuscaloosa.
Okay, so I want to know your opinion. Like, what's the environment usually like?
Well, it depends on how the game's going. Um, I went in 2019 when the infamous game where Jarrett Garantano spiked the ball into the end zone, and throughout that game, Tennessee had a chance. And for the most part, Alabama fans were sitting on their hands because they were nervous. I mean, if Alabama's doing well, yeah, they'll get up and get loud, but for like if they're not playing well, and this is going to be up to Tennessee, like they're quiet for the most part, and that's just I've only been there once. That's what happened during that game.
Now, how do you think the Tennessee, Vol Nation? How do you think we're going to travel to this game? You think there's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans there?
I think so. I think we'll bring as much as A&M brought to Neyland Stadium last week, if not more.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for because I think that's another benefit of having Vol fans there. It's just if I'm a player and I'm coming out of the tunnel, you know, there's a there's a good little motivation factor if you come out and you see a bunch of orange in the crowd.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's what needs to happen, and I know there's going to be a bunch of people there, and I know there's a bunch of Vol fans that live in Alabama that need to be at this game and
yeah,
take up a seat because we're going to need all the help we can get.
yeah. And I don't know if one or both of y'all know this, but the Pride of the Southland band always takes the full band to Alabama because they always do the circle drill at halftime. So, the band's going to be there at least, but it's just it's up to the fans to get there and show out and support this team. I mean, it's like Bryce said earlier. This is the best we've matched up with Alabama when we've been playing there in a while. Like there's no reason that Vol Nation shouldn't show out.
And I'm sure we will. I mean, we've seen it Vol nations everywhere, and I
Yeah,
don't doubt that there's going to be plenty of people there. So,
yeah. If Tennessee played a game on the damn surface of Venus, we would have at least 500 people there.
yeah. But I do want to talk about this game as we'll talk about like after the fact. And we're talking about hypotheticals here, but you know, the biggest thing is if Tennessee wins this game, I want to hear your thoughts on what the landscape looks like, you know, for Tennessee after this. I mean, we play Kentucky the following week at night, and this has huge playoff implications for both teams because if Tennessee beats Alabama and vice versa, I mean, you're taking a lot out of their season here. So, what are your thoughts on do you think this is in the players' heads or the coaches' heads?
I think they're both have to be thinking about it. I mean, especially Saban's team, because how many of Saban's players have ever lost twice? I mean, it's not very many. It's kind of if you think I don't want to say that whoever loses this game is out because some weird stuff could happen. But I mean, if you have two losses, you're probably not thinking about the college football playoff. So I definitely think that's going to have a motivating factor. I mean, if Saban loses this game, he's going to be on the outside looking in for the second year in a row, and he's going to have to find out what network to go on and cry again. So, that's definitely in his mind. I can promise you that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say right now, if Tennessee loses this, you can forget about a playoff this year. I mean, when you go down to Florida and lose to that team, and you didn't pick up a second loss, just write it off.
The only thing is if the only scenario I could see them not being out with the loss here would be if we go down and beat Georgia. If we beat Georgia at home and then we go to just win out the rest of the way. But even then, Georgia would have to lose another game somewhere.
Yeah, with 2 losses, you're going to have to win the SC championship.
Yep.
To get into the playoff.
Which is very possible. Well, I'm talking about. I think here's my thing is if Tennessee wins this game, I think it's going to be hard to stop us. I think if the players come out with a win here, the momentum and the motivation factor come into play, and I'd be scared if I was Kentucky if Tennessee wins this game.
I think Kentucky should be scared anyway. They're a joke.
Yeah, we also own them, so
yeah.
But
hey guys, I don't know about you, but I mean, I personally don't see any difference in Neyland Stadium and Kroger parking lot. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, they're basically the same, you know.
Yeah, I've also seen on here that I see Kentucky fans are acting a lot like Coach Stoops begging for a bigger stadium. I mean, I just don't see them filling out 80,000 seat stadium. So
no, I mean that sounds like a real cute idea until they go back to winning 5 games a year and it's half empty in October.
Yeah, when Mark Stoops is the coach at Iowa next year, they'll struggle to fill 3 sections in that stadium. So, but I want to say something real quick about Mark Stoops. That comment he made after the Georgia game, where he's basically saying that the roster he has now is not good enough. How do you think the players feel in the locker room after that statement?
I would feel like crap.
Well, they can feel however they want. I actually don't have a problem with what he said. He's right. I mean, he's right. I mean, I think he's acknowledging the limitations that you have when you're at Kentucky. I mean,
even if he is right, though, like, would you want to play for a guy that basically says y'all aren't good enough?
It was definitely an arrogant thing to say. I mean, he was basically saying my players suck ass and I'm just such a great coach.
Yeah, like he didn't even want to sniff thinking that it was his fault. He just blamed the lack of talent on his roster that he built. So,
but I will say though, when you're a program like Kentucky, like Ryan, like you said, they just want to be good enough until basketball starts, and then the fans can go watch basketball. But Stoops is the first guy who's had any sustained somewhat success at Kentucky. I mean, in forever. So I think he was trying to save his own ass with that comment by saying like, look, don't get mad at me if we finish 8-4 because that's the ceiling for Kentucky football. And I mean, I think he's right in that regard. He probably shouldn't have said it, but
yeah, I mean, I still don't like it. I would be upset if Heupel made a comment like that, but you know, he is probably right at the end of the day. So, you know.
Yeah, this made me think of a topic with this Alabama game. So Nick Saban and Heupel have probably, the most different kind of coaching styles. And I'm kind of wondering what we're going to see from each of them. Like if you're Heupel and like on the offensive side of the ball, what are you doing? Like, I'm trying to pick your brains and see what you think should happen on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball for both teams. Like, what do you expect Saban to do against our offense and vice versa? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. On defense, I think the main focus should be on containing Milroe in the pocket because this is the first time in a long time that Alabama really has no skill players that are a household name. I mean, you might know their names, but they're not living up to the Alabama standard. On offense, I think Heupel should run tempo come hell or high water, unless it means that you're getting the stupid pre-snap penalties like we had at Florida.
Yeah, I think I mean, if I was playing against Tennessee, I think my plan would be to just stack the box and force Milton to throw. That's, in my opinion, that's the best thing you can hope for.
Yeah, but then what if you get the Joe Milton from the Orange Bowl? Then what do you do?
Well, then Tennessee's a juggernaut, and you got some other problems. I think,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think as of now, we've shown that the running game is going to be the bread and butter. It's what we've had the most consistency with. So I think you're going to obviously try to sell out to stop that. And you're going to hope that even if you do get the Joe Milton from the Orange Bowl game, Ramel Keaton still can't remember how to catch a ball.
Let's hope that changes this week.
I mean, it's. I mean, I don't see how we win if it doesn't change. I mean, if you only have two receivers that are being effective, it might not even be a defensive battle. You might lose by 2 or 3 scores. So Keaton's going to have to step up. Like he needs to be thinking this week that if I don't step up in this game, I'm not seeing the field the rest of the year. Like, and that's all there's to it.
The problem is you don't really have anybody else to replace him. I mean, unless you want Chaz Nimrod in there for every snap, which I mean could be okay, I guess. But
I mean, the same thing with Caleb Webb. I think Caleb Webb's really good. I think we'll start seeing more of a couple guys coming in and out. I think. Yeah, because sure. that pass in the A&M game was inexcusable. Like that was a silly drop because there was no one in front of him, so there was no worry about getting hit. There's no reason you drop that ball.
Yeah, I mean he just has to focus up. I mean, this is a secondary that you can throw on. I mean, Quinn Ewers threw all over him. I mean, that's the reason Texas beat them in Tuscaloosa. I mean, he was throwing deep balls in the fourth quarter. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. Like
it's a lot like they're built a lot like the A&M defense, really. I mean, you can beat them deep. They're tough to run against.
Yeah, but we proved last week that we can run on anybody.
Yeah,
it just comes down to the execution and staying out of those stupid penalties. So.
Yeah,
guys,
do what?
Guys, I want to go over some names of quarterbacks that have beaten Alabama in Tuscaloosa, if y'all don't mind.
Yes, I would love to.
All right. So this is excluding the 3 losses from 2007 under Nick Saban. Start off with Auburn 2010. Name that quarterback.
Cam Newton.
There you go. Texas A&M 2012.
Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Football.
There you go. Ole Miss 2015.
Is that Bo Wallace?
Chad Kelly. Better than Bo Wallace. LSU 2019.
Joe Burr.
There you go. And finally, Texas 2023.
Coors.
What do all those people have in common?
They're better than Joe Milton.
They are elite college quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So, Joe Milton, either the run game, like I said earlier, is creative, effective, and dominates the game, or Joe Milton steps up.
Yeah.
So, that's really how I'm looking at this game. I mean, it's going to come down to whether the run game can be effective enough, or whether Joe Milton can step up for the first time this season. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, like look at last week though. Like if we weren't able to run the ball like we would have lost last week. I mean, the passing offense did nothing last week. So I think it's going to be I think you're totally hit the nail on the head. I think it's going to have to be the same game script.
Yeah.
See, I'm like the complete opposite, and I'm probably the worst person to ask that question to because I'm a Joe Milton believer. I don't care how bad this kid could do. This kid has the talent to do it. It's just I don't think they're calling the. I'm not gonna say they're not calling the right plays, but they don't use Joe Milton. And we saw little bits and pieces of it in the Florida game towards the end of the game. Even on the first drive, Joe Milton looked good, and then we just kept trying to run the ball, and it wasn't working. And then it was like, then you're putting Joe in those bad spots, and because we would get stopped twice on the run, it'd be 3rd and long, and then boom, you're off the field.
Yeah.
And also you can't let Alabama do what Florida did and have the ball for 20 minutes. It can't happen.
Yeah.
So, and like I said before, I don't see our defense doing that. I think our defense is full steam ahead, but anything could happen in college football.
Yeah. I think the biggest difference you'll see from the Florida game is that, we've harped on it through the first 2 episodes of this thing. Cooper Mays is now at center. So please, for the love of God, do not commit those penalties. And Cooper Mays at center, he might mitigate some of those issues that we've seen in a tough environment that the Vols will be walking into on Saturday. So that's my hope. I mean, I don't think without an effective running game you're going to be able to win this game. So with Cooper Mays back in the fold, hopefully that cuts down on the penalties and we don't get behind the sticks. And we don't have to rely on Joe to make those decisions that he's been struggling with this year.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited about this game. I like I said at the beginning, I think we have a better shot to beat them this year, especially in Tuscaloosa. I think this is the year. If you're going to beat them in Tuscaloosa, this is the year. I think Tennessee's better than on paper than Alabama this year, and I don't know. I'm excited, but I don't know how to think. I don't know. I'm trying to be Josh Heupel in my head, but I'm obviously not, and I'm just wondering what we're gonna get Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just want to get one more little thing in there about the game Saturday. Our receivers may not be very good. At least they don't hit women.
Yeah.
Or praise them for how good they do and how amazing of a wide receiver they are.
Yeah, I mean, Jermaine Burton, Bryce, you have to take into account that he was fearing for his life with that, 19-year-old co-ed coming at him.
That 5'2", buck 20.
I mean, 90-pound college girls are pretty terrifying. So,
yeah, I mean, and Nick Saban defended them until the cows came home. Bastard.
Yeah, we're not going to punish them. I think you did great. Yeah, I think I'm proud of you for getting there safe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I'm kind of worried about this game, but I'm kind of not. I had the same feeling going into the A&M game, and I wasn't nervous at all, and I didn't know if I liked it. And the defense was definitely a saving grace for me. So I'm hoping, we see that again Saturday.
I mean, it would be incredible for the defense to perform like they did last week on the road. I mean, and, Alabama's offense is nothing to, really be scared of. You just got to go out there and execute.
Yeah, I think if you stop the run, just like you were saying about how they stopped Joe Milton, I think you need to make Milroe throw. I mean, I just don't believe in his short game. Because all his yards really from this year are from deep bombs.
mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
So I'm not afraid of Jalen Milroe. I'm more afraid of having him I could picture it right now. I could picture James Pierce coming off the edge, Tyler Barron coming off the other edge, and they just how they get behind the quarterback and then he just moves up and ends up running. Yeah. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, you have to have maybe the pass rush shouldn't be focused on sacks, per se. They should be focused on keeping him in that cylinder. If he busts out, he's either going to run for a first down or complete a pass down the field. I mean, I really think that the pass rush should be focused on just keeping him there.
Yeah, I think they will.
Yeah.
QB spy situation.
Well, we were talking about this before. If you do a QB spy, you take that one guy out of coverage, and I just don't know how I feel about that. And because I think if you put Arian Carter or Elijah Herring to be a spy, or even Aaron Beasley, obviously Aaron Beasley, but um, obviously we won't have trouble with him running. It's just you take away that guy in coverage because he's so focused on the quarterback, and
I just don't know if
opens
they
up a
have.
little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't know if they have very many weapons that I'm terrified of. I mean, other than Burton, I think Haddon will shadow Burton. I'm sure, but
Yeah,
Is he? I'm assuming he's their best wide receiver.
I mean, so far he is. I mean, I can only name one other Alabama wide receiver, and that's Bond. Hell, I don't even know his first name, and that speaks to what I talked about earlier. Like, there's no household names. Like,
this is not. Yeah, this is not the Alabama we grew up with. This isn't like. I mean, Alabama always has an NFL running back, 2 NFL receivers, and sometimes an NFL like tight end or another NFL running back. And this year, what do they have? I mean, I know that's not the end all be all, but this is not a name brand Alabama team.
Yeah, I think with the weapons they have on offense, if they didn't have Nick Saban making the decisions, like they would probably have another loss or even 2 at this point. I think it just speaks to how good Nick Saban is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I keep getting back to Joe Milton, but I think early on in the game they need to get him feeling it in the passing game. I think obviously you're going to run the ball. We know Tennessee's going to run the ball, but you need to get Joe Milton comfortable.
Yeah.
And even if it's not, don't do the whole bubble screen. That doesn't get a quarterback comfortable throwing a ball, 3 feet to a wide receiver. I mean, run a couple slants. Do something to get him in rhythm and him comfortable with the crowd and all that. And I think I don't know, man. It's hard to say that. I'm really comfortable with this game if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, especially after completing, only half of your passes against A&M, it would be incredible for Milton, for the coaching staff to focus on Milton getting some completions, giving him some confidence. I mean, even if it is through short passes and bubble screens, like quarterbacks love to see the ball not hit the ground. I mean, unless it's an interception. But, you have to get him into the game early. And I think another way to do that is get him hit early. Run some quarterback draws. Understand that you're not going to get knocked out of the game just because you get hit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I don't like how he does those draws though sometimes, because he'll run at it's like he doesn't pick the right way to go, because he always gets those 2-yarders. It's like, dude, if you just went to the hole right to the right, I mean, you're picking up 8 to 10 yards, and we've seen Joe Milton's speed. I mean, he could run, and I agree. I think if Joe Milton decides to say, "Hey, I'm going to run this game," then it's going to be hard to stop Tennessee.
Yeah, it's just another piece of the offense that is different than last year because, when the quarterback is running effectively in Heupel's offense, that opens up a ton more opportunities down the field in the running game, sitting around the running back. I mean, that's just one more thing you have to think of if you're Alabama.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of personnel, has there been any, significant turnover or changes in the offensive positions? I mean, talk about Tennessee. I mean, do you guys think we see a couple, because like you said, Ryan, on the last podcast, you had Keaton played every snap.
Yep.
And do we see maybe that change this game? Does it cut? And I don't know. Why I'm wondering that is it's Alabama. Do you take? Because I mean, I guarantee you they still believe Keaton's their best wide receiver. And
probably, yeah.
I mean, it's like it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, I mean, if not Keaton, then who? I mean, are you really going to trust Caleb Webb or Chaz Nimrod to play all snaps at Tuscaloosa? Like, I think they can eventually, but I don't think there's a whole lot of options. I mean, to change it up now. I mean, this is kind of the team that you have.
I think you need to throw to Squirrel White a lot more.
Well, yeah, Squirrel White needs to obviously be a key part of the game plan.
And D. Williams, get him involved.
Dude,
Please.
I want to see some D. Williams jet sweeps so bad.
Dude, oh my God, it'd be so nice. Just like it would throw people off. Like you just start seeing D. Williams come up to the line of scrimmage. Him and Squirrel White on at the same time. I don't know, man. I don't know what. Like we said before, I don't know what's. I don't get paid the big bucks to coach these guys and make these decisions, but it's kind of
the only problem I could see that arising with that is, I mean, if D. Williams comes onto the field on offense, I'm pretty sure Saban's going to know it's going to be a jet sweep or something like that.
See, I think you get him involved in like even the little bubble screens, dude. Because like just the way you see him on punt returns and kick returns, the way he gets away from people, I think he could be a problem. Instead of a 5-yard gain, it might turn into a 15, 20-yard gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if D. Williams hadn't seen the field on defense at corner, why not just switch him to offense? Like that's my main point. Like especially last year when our secondary was reeling, like not playing well, and teams were throwing all over us, and he still couldn't see the field. Get him on offense.
Yeah.
Like, if there's any game to do it, it's this game, because you're gonna have to pull up a lot of stuff, in my opinion, to pull this game out.
Do y'all have any other final thoughts on the matchup? And we got some viewer questions I want to get to.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, let's hop into the mailbag. Let's get
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to do this every week. Obviously, we'll have a bigger segment for it as we get bigger. But I wanted to show some love to the people who sent in some questions. We're going to start off here. So let me first of all say, so the first question is from Chef Dilly at Mr. McGiggle75.
Okay.
So he wants us to he says, can you guys do a roster breakdown on where we stand for next year and possible portal needs? I think we need, and then he goes into all the positions that he thinks we're going to need to address. Now, Chef Dilly, we are going to touch on that more probably towards the end of the season. Like, we're obviously going to do some off-season stuff. So that's kind of an off-season thing, in my opinion. But what I figured we could do to answer his question is, what is the number one? We'll pick one position. What's the number one position you guys think we need to hit in the transfer
offensive
portal?
line?
Yep. Absolutely.
Not even close. Offensive line.
I absolutely agree. And for what it's worth, Mr. McGiggles, like, he agrees as well. He says he would get 2 tackles, 1 center, and a guard. Totally agree.
I mean, the whole offensive line are seniors. I mean,
Yep.
some of them do have COVID years that they could take, but you're going to need depth on that, no matter what.
Yep.
So offensive line and maybe even receiver, like, especially after what we've seen from the passing game so far.
Yeah. And depending on,
if I'm in the portal, if I'm Heupel, I am going after every elite lineman in that portal. Not even a question. Like,
absolutely.
And you have the the NIL, you have all that, you have the big university, the SEC, you have all those talking points. You can get whoever you want. It's just you got to go after them.
You've also got a pedigree of having elite linemen in the past. So
right, Darnell Wright, literally last year. I mean, Cooper Mays. Cooper Mays is an elite lineman.
Yeah, for sure.
Even Spraggins. I think Spraggins is really good.
He is.
So I mean, yeah, offensive line for sure on that one.
Awesome. So all of us agree. So we'll go to the next one. This is from @HatedVolFan. Do y'all think we see Orange Bowl Joe again this season? Man, that's tough.
If any game, it's this game. I think because this game, you can't lose this game. I think this is a must win. This is where we need Orange Bowl Joe. I mean, now, do we see him again? I don't know. I can't answer that question. That's up to Joe Milton. But if I wanted one, if I could pick a game, it'd be this game.
Yeah. My thoughts on Joe are well documented. I'm going to say no. Simple.
Okay. All right. And then for this week, we'll end with this one. So this is from @LaytonNeal24. If you could pick, this is a fun one. If you could pick one past or present QB, it can't be Peyton. Who would to put on this team? Who would it be and why?
Oof. I had one come to head real quick.
Go ahead.
Mine's Joe Burrow. I
Yeah.
think, oh my God, if you put Joe Burrow on like last year or this year's team, oh my God.
Dude,
Oh my God.
I mean, it would
we
be the
win the Natty.
2019 LSU team.
Yeah, we would win the Natty, no questions asked.
Yeah. I'll stick with past Tennessee quarterbacks. Give me Casey Clausen.
That's not a very fun list. Okay. Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have lost to Florida, and we would win on Saturday because he was a road warrior. Casey Clausen all day.
The Iceman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna throw it back. I'm gonna go with old Condridge.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
so we are sticking with Tennessee quarterbacks, and
the way that he worded it, he meant any college quarterback ever, not just Tennessee. That Peyton was just the only one you can't use.
Well, I wouldn't have picked Peyton anyway, but
yeah, I mean,
it's just fun to do it with just Tennessee and then without Tennessee as well. So, like, obviously Burrow is going to be a top choice. Tebow, Cam Newton, obviously all those are going to be great choices. Honestly, though, I think if I had to go all-time college, they don't have to be a Vol. I think it would be really fun to see Marcus Mariota on this team.
I can see that.
In Heupel's offense, he's like,
exactly.
I mean, are you talking about the offense from last year, or are you talking about this one where we're seeing all the screens and stuff?
Well,
I have a couple good ones then.
If we had Mariota on this team, like this year's offense, it wouldn't look like this year's offense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My thing is, so if I had to pick one from like this year, I would love to have Sam Hartman on this team.
Right.
Just because, I mean, if you want a guy to just sit in the pocket and throw short passes, I think that's your guy. I mean, he's accurate. He can hand the ball off like everybody else. I mean, I don't know. Why not? Sam Hartman. And I heard he could have been a Vol but after Joe's Orange Bowl performance, everyone thought he was going to be, head and hooker. So.
Well, that got pissed on so far.
So far, let's see. I mean, what are we halfway through the season now? I mean, and if Joe doesn't show up this Saturday, I mean, and we lose this game, then you start wondering when the Nico show comes around.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. Like anytime you have a prospect as highly touted as Nico, people are going to call for that like as soon as possible. But I think any like discourse around Nico like should be starting in Tuscaloosa. I mean, I think even Ryan doesn't think that's a good idea, right?
No,
like that's pants on head retarded. Like Joe hasn't done anything, in my opinion. Joe hasn't done anything yet to deserve getting benched.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just the potential of what the offense could be with, and we haven't seen it yet from Nico, but it's just tough to think that he wouldn't run it better just based on what we know about him. So, but
All right. Well, we're getting into the hour mark here. So I really want to get into the scoring predictions here, and I'm really interested on what you guys think because I know this segment's probably going to be a long one. Um, we'll go from we'll start with Ryan and then we'll go to Bryce. I guess I'll finish up. But Ryan, what are we thinking with this Saturday, the third Saturday in October in Tuscaloosa? What are we feeling prediction wise?
yeah. The more I looked at this game over the last 2 days, the more confident I've gotten that we can beat them. But it's gonna take a few things. I mean, we've talked about it. You got to contain Jalen Milroe. You can't let him run all over you. You have to force him into mistakes like Texas did. He threw 2 interceptions against Texas. For us, we can't make stupid mistakes like we did at Florida in our last road game. I mean, you can't take a million penalties that kill drives. And Joe Milton has to be effective in one way or another, whether it be him finally throwing the ball effectively and being efficient or him running the ball effectively. And, I said it earlier, I think if he's not passing it, you have to go to an exotic run game. I don't think, no matter how good our offensive line is, with the way Alabama's going to be motivated, I don't think inside zone and, just relying on the tempo is going to work the whole game. So I think you're going to have to draw up some creative run plays. So at the end of the day, I think Alabama's going to be ready. I think we'll be ready too. But Nick Saban's going to have his team ready. And I see it being a rock fight with the way both of these offenses have struggled. So I'm going to go with Alabama 24-20.
All right. I mean, I don't disagree with you with anything you said. So I just, it's a toss up with this one. I'm still conflicted.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bryce.
Yeah. Sorry. I think, hate to be a parrot, Ryan, but I agree with almost everything you said. I think it's going to be tough. I'm a big analytics guy. I'm a big trends guy. I think Saban has probably watched 2 things on repeat. It's our game over Texas A&M and the Tennessee-Bama game from last year. I think he is going to see how we thoroughly dominated on the ground against A&M, and he's going to do everything he can to make that not happen. I think ultimately our offense just doesn't make as many plays as Milroe will. I think ultimately we're going to end 28-20, something like that. I think ultimately I just think Alabama has a little bit more horses than we do, and I don't think they're going to – Saban, this is like you said earlier, this is their Super Bowl. This is going to get everything that they have.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be the odd one out here. Well, not probably. I'm definitely going to be the odd one out here. I actually don't think that Alabama comes out on top in this one. I do believe that we're going to pass the ball better than this past weekend. I'm not going to say that Joe's going to throw for 300 yards, but I definitely see a better game from Joe. I do want to read what Wes Rucker just posted on Twitter, but it's coming from Josh Heupel on the struggling pass game. This is a quote saying, "At the end of the day, I've got confidence in my guys. Some of those throws Saturday, Joe's technique was off, so his throws were a little off. Some throws were dropped, and at the end of the day, we just got to be better." Coming from that quote, I think they're going to be ready for this game. I think our defense is going to show up. I think it's going to be a completely opposite team from the Florida game on the road. And I think Tennessee ends up winning this game 35-28. And I think we roll on into Lexington the following week.
Let's go. Hell yeah.
That's what we all hope for.
Yeah, I mean, all you could do is hope. I mean, like I said before, we don't get paid the big bucks to go make these decisions. It's just, being fans, it sucks. You got to wait till that Saturday to see what happens and who shows up. Because, I mean, if Tennessee's defense shows up and starts playing really well, I think the offense is going to show up. And, I don't think our running game is going to struggle that much. I think it all depends on the big number 7.
Yes, sir.
But anything else you guys want to talk about before we head out of here?
I couldn't imagine being a fan base that's Anthem relies around their biggest rival. That's all I got.
Hey, in the most scientific poll ever created, Vol Twitter resoundingly says Dixieland Delight is in fact an anthem about the volunteer state.
Oh, but Bryce, the band who sang it is named Alabama. Okay, well, if you had any knowledge, the guy who wrote it is from East Tennessee. So get a life.
Well,
Yeah.
God, dude, I'm just nervous for this game now. I don't know.
Hey, that's what being a fan is all about.
But what Bryce said earlier, talking to the listeners, I mean, if you see 1796 post on Twitter, make sure you comment, and we'll address all your thoughts. I mean, the more the better. The content's going to be rolling out every couple days, especially with basketball season coming around, and baseball season's not that far either. But we got a lot of Tennessee athletics coming our way, and that's the page to do it. So make sure you guys follow 1796 on Twitter and on Instagram as well. We're going to be putting out a lot of content coming the next few weeks.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Follow Normal Vol Fan too.
If you want the spiciest memes.
And probably the most motivation you could get. You could do that too.
Hell
Dude,
yeah.
if you want to, in my opinion, that's the holy trinity is Astro Smokey, Normal Vol Fan, and the 1796 Sports.
Yeah, I've been trying to get Astro to get a little bit more active. He's getting a little burnt out, and I miss seeing like the 4 or 5 post daily Astro. So I'm working on him. We'll see if we can get him back to normality. But anyways, guys, I had a blast doing this. I can't wait for Saturday, and we'll be doing a recap of the game Sunday. So
Yep.
we'll talk to you guys later. And as always, go Big Orange.
Yes. Go Vols.
Go Vols.